Hey, I'm Sean. Welcome to Echoes in Eternity Bourbon. Today we're going to go over E.H. Taylor Small Batch. This kind of led from yesterday being Bottle and Bond Act Day. So today is March 4th. Bottle and Bond 1897 was established March 3rd. So let's get into it. So in today's market, you'll find E.H. Taylor small batch, single barrel, barrel proof. Some of the other different products that they offer are very difficult to find. They're allocated products. You really never find them at MSRP unless you're in a state that has runs their liquor sales, or if you're in some kind of a raffle or a point system or something like that. They're very hard to get, very sought after. But one of the things you look for in this is there's also a lot of history behind this. You know, in 1897, the Bottle and Bond Act came into place. What that means is that there were set guidelines because there was a lot of adulteration of whiskey at the time. A lot of whiskeys, people were adding colors to it, or they maybe weren't aged well, or there wasn't any kind of quality control. So E.H. Taylor kind of devised an act to work to get some control set in place for alcohol, and to make sure that the consumer is getting a good product, and that there are some kind of standard set in the market so people were comfortable with the product they were getting. Government, it helped the government out. They offered tax breaks and things like that, so it would also help with the regulation of things. And so, what does the Bottle and Bond Act mean? There's the guidelines are pretty interesting. It's there's three different types of things as far as the distillery. It must be distilled in one distilling season every year. Has two distilling seasons, January to June or July to December. It must be distilled in one of those seasons. It must be done by one distiller at one distillery. So you have the three distillations, or distillery or distiller process there. So one distilling season, one distiller at one distillery. It must be done at a federally bonded warehouse that the government had some control over, so they could make sure that all these steps were being taken. Uh, it must be in barrel for a minimum of 4 years, and the final product will come out at 50% ABV, 100 proof. Um, this gave a tax stamp to it, which reduced some of the taxes, but also gave the consumer something very a reliable product again and again and again, because there were processes set in place for this. So at the end of the day, what other features that come with this is, there's also something that's on the bottle that's labeled itself. Now it'll tell you where this was, who the distillery, what the distiller is. If it was bottled somewhere else, you needed to disclose that as well. If you didn't bottle at the distillery, you needed to disclose where it was bottled as well. And that's kind of how we got to the Bottled and Bond Act. This was also put forward through by Ezra Brooks, who was also a friend of E.H. Taylor. Interesting fact about E.H. Taylor, they have him as Colonel E.H. Taylor. He was in fact not a military colonel, but what they call a Kentucky colonel. And that is something that is given to a person if they've shown enough goodwill, and brought about good things to the state of Kentucky. So another famous colonel for Kentucky would be Colonel Sanders. I was thinking to myself, man, this is awesome. You've got Colonel Sanders and you've got Colonel Taylor. You've got two of my favorite things. You've got fried chicken and bourbon. I can't imagine what it was like to be out in the field with these guys, but my dreams were dashed only to find out that it's kind of an honorary title, but still pretty cool. So what I'd like to do today is kind of get into this, get a tasting on it, and give you my thoughts on it. First off, is I absolutely love the container that comes with this. It just is really cool. But once you pop this container open, you Get your cool bottle in here. Let's give it a pour and see what we got. It's got some viscosity. You get to see it hanging on the sides a little bit. As far as the nose, I'm getting a little bit of citrus, getting a little bit of raisin. I get a little bit of pine in here. A little more floral than you expect. You know, you get a little bit of the caramel, some of the vanillas, but I get a little more floral, a little more citrus. To me, I get a lot of the orange on this. I get a lot of the citrus on this. I get a lot of the floral on this. Get a little bit of peppery on the back here. Chew on it a little bit. I get the mint in this. I guess I'm very sensitive to mint, and I like mint, so it's not a bad thing for me. Not overpowering, but I get a lot of mint in this. To me, this is a very easy sipper. Very flavorful, not overpowering. It's got some complexity when you chew on it. So it's something that I definitely enjoy. The cool part about this is kind of the inception of your Buffalo Trace products. You know, Colonel Taylor bought OFC, or he bought a distillery, named it OFC, which eventually came into the modern day brand known as your Buffalo Trace. So a lot of cool, neat history behind that. Actually, when they started this up, they actually created the distillery not to look like a distillery, but made it look like an old castle, which I thought was really cool. And people would show up to this old castle, and they would go out and have picnics and hang out there at the distillery in front of this big castle. And they would give out what's called tenth pints. And so little samples of their product while they were on the distillery having a picnic and hanging out. Now, eventually, you know, they moved away from the castle distillery, and it sat for years, and now it's been renovated. And now, from what I've read, another distillery is kind of taking up the mantle there, but they're not associated with Buffalo Trace. But all in all, I think this is a good bourbon. It's a great Friday, Saturday, or Sunday sipper. I hope this brought you some information. This is actually one of the bottles that I put in my infinity bottle that I'm giving away to someone. So maybe you're that person, and you'll have a little bit of history in that bottle as well. But I appreciate you. Please, if this was interesting to you, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, reach out. And I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you.